everyone. Welcome to Flourish by Design TV for our Tuesday chat. So excited that you were able to take time to just listen in to my weekly wanderings. So I hope you've had a brilliant week since I spoke to you last week. I'm trying to make these weekly now, and I actually really look forward to them. Been teaching today and had an amazing day with the students and fabulous. And I love coming on here to do a little extra teaching with you guys because I'm always in my happy place when I'm teaching. It's the thing that I enjoy most. So this week, what I wanted to talk about and what I was thinking about, what would I love to share, was talking about baby steps. I often talk about baby steps, and it's a teaching that just has transformed my life and definitely has changed my life drastically in a good way. It's amazing how, when you dream big, and people who know me and I know that I'm a big picture thinker. I love to dream big and think big, and I have huge ideas and many, many ideas all the time. It's like a firework display in my mind. And I always have lots of different directions that I like to go in. But how do we start to design our life from the inside out and live that true life that I talked about last week? A life that is true to you, design a life that's true to you, we talked about last week, is actually through little baby steps, different little changes that you make every day. And again, I talked about 10 years ago when I was 40, I was sitting with myself in my comfortable chair in the living room where I just always sat and have a cup of tea and had a little quiet time, just listening to the birds outside and just enjoying silence. And I was thinking to myself of my life, and I looked at everything that I had created in my life, and I thought to myself, as I shared before, that actually some of it wasn't really designed true to me. And I started wanting to change things around. And I made a conscious decision to myself to be of service and wanting to make a change in the world and to live a bigger life. That's where the rose comes in, keeps the unfolding these petals, and that I love to teach women here how to do and to role model. And just from a practice point of view of how that unfolds over the last number of years, it's actually becoming conscious of that dream that you feel life is dreaming through you, and every day listening to that. So if you sitting in that silent space and you're listening to the song within your heart, and then making that little baby step in that day towards that, that's one of the biggest transformational, I would say, tips that I would love, or teachings that I would love to pass on to you. That is just those tiny changes each day that you hear in your heart pulling you forward, because it is bringing you towards your calling, your soul's calling. That bigger dream that life has dreamt for you is what you are being drawn towards, your destiny as such. And if you take that quiet time in the morning or any time during the day just to listen to what that is, it actually cuts out a lot of the overthinking. And, I know myself, I'm a deep thinker, and I think a lot. And sometimes I can overthink, and I can have this like procrastination, and I can thinking too much about something instead of doing it. And I would say that silence and sitting quietly always takes me in the right direction, where I can be shown exactly what to do next in that direction. So I'd say the baby steps have such a ripple effect, because when you think about it, I know for myself, for my life experience, it's always transformation always comes when we change the record. So I always feel like it's like we're playing a record in our heads, it's like the vinyl, the vinyl record, and we're playing the same song all the time, and we have this identity of ourselves in our mind, and we're just playing this song all the time on loop, keep playing the same song, and it goes round and around and around in a circle. And that is a reflection of the habits that we do every day. So if we're in a habit of getting up at the same time, doing the same thing, being with the same people, and eating the same things and going to the same places, we're in that record and we're still playing the same record every single day. And that leads to stagnancy because life is fundamentally creative. It's always moving forward. It's always expanding. And like the rose, it's always getting bigger. So it's always wanting to grow and expand. And when we don't grow and expand with it, it starts to create this build up within our system. It's like a backlog of evolution. So what happens, I would say, is either the push or the pull. So what happens is if we're in this loop and we're not changing and we're doing the same thing over and over and over again, it often happens that evolution needs to update you. It needs for you to push forward, and actually it will take charge. And if you're not listening to those little song within your heart, it will get louder and louder and louder. Eventually, it will become a crisis and it will evolve you without you realizing. So that can be a big shock. It can be many different things that can happen in your life. And I've noticed in my life where some areas I'm always progressing, like in my career, but sometimes in my personal life, I'm more stagnant and I find it, I'm more routined. And I notice that when you don't invest in that area of your life, or if it's work, or if it's exercise, or if it's any area of your life, it starts to, get louder and louder. So those baby steps every day are just making little changes in those areas, going outside of that loop and starting to spiral upwards. So instead of going around and around and around, you start to spiral a little bit higher. So it starts to go like that spiral upwards because life is always growing basically like this, like a spiral upwards, like a plant. If you were to do the physics of a plant, you would see that's, that's how life grows. It grows, expands all the time and it goes higher and higher. And it's always pushing us that way. So the baby steps, even though you wouldn't imagine how that could actually change your life drastically, but constantly changing every day small areas of your life and looking to see where I'm stagnant, where I need to update myself is the best thing that you can do. Like I say, to slow down, to speed up. When you slow down and say, okay, where am I next? Okay, I might be doing really well in this one area, but where is an area that I need some growth? And looking at what are the little baby steps that I can take each day to make that happen. And I was thinking about my phone today because actually there's an area that I needed updating. Just during the week, I was trying to download apps that I couldn't, and I was getting really frustrated, and I needed to send in some receipts and to VHI, and I had lots of I couldn't download the app. What's happening with it? Contact them. I couldn't figure out what the story was. So went into Vodafone actually, and I asked him. I said, "What's the issue with my phone? I can't seem to use any of these apps." And he just looked at it and he said, "Oh my God, your operating system is so old. It needs to be updated. It's about 5 versions too old." So the new operating system took more memory than my phone actually had available to it. So I said, "You're just going to have to update your phone." And that was a great example I thought of, like when stagnancy, when you haven't actually updated your system, that it just starts to break down and it doesn't work anymore. It just will come to like, so some people have breakdowns, sometimes people have breakups, some people have certain, I would say, it's life altering events in their life that is telling them your operating system isn't working anymore. It needs to be updated. So it'll break it down until you will take charge of that area of your life. So I just thought it was really interesting to to see that, and I'm like, "Oh, wow." So, and I looked for a new phone yesterday, bought the new phone, and it arrived today. And oh my God, it's so amazing. I'm just setting it up still, but it's so much more advanced and a lovely big screen, and it's just amazing. And I got a gorgeous red color to go with my red rose, and I was just happy as Larry. You know, it just feels like you're up to date. You're up to the minute. You're up to speed with everything. And I just thought to myself, that is such a fantastic teaching that, when we're constantly updating, we don't get that big shock and we don't get that big bill as well. So if we're constantly updating, every year or updating ourselves, it doesn't cost as much as such. Sometimes if we're not updating ourselves and we're not using, taking those baby steps forward, then with our skills, with our personal life, we'll get this big bill and it's going to cost an awful lot more than the investment in each day in those baby steps going forward. So just think about, where in your life do you feel you could start to make some updates, and how can you make those baby steps each day just to change your behavior or to look at an area that needs updating. So when we think about that, in all the little areas right across our life, that we can make little changes, small changes, and that we're not avoiding the change that is inevitable that we're going to have to make in our life, then our life is moving forward. So even just, updating a phone, that's a baby step in the whole of your life, but it's just making progress, always making progress, you know? Just a baby step is progress. It's not anything radical, but if you do that each day, it has a cumulative effect and it changes your life over time. If you do, imagine if you were to take a baby step every single day for a full year, how would your life look by the end of the year? And even when it comes to education, I mean, I was blown away with this. I know I mentioned on my Facebook page about, I just finished my postgrad in training, education, and development, and I worked at it every day. Baby steps again, bite sizes that I had to do each day, the classes, the Zooms, the all the different assignments, and I was delighted that I got first class honors. And I'm now got approval of my ethics to do my dissertation and moving into the masters. Then I got a contact from my colleague, the gorgeous Saeed, one of the lecturers and study buddy I have in Griffith, who's just finished a PhD, and he reached out to say, Caroline, I want to mentor you through. Now you can be applying for your PhD. You don't even have to finish the masters. You can just apply and see and start in September, And I go, wow, that the baby steps, you just would not believe how it can change your life and transform your life. I had no clue back, you know, this time last year when I started making those baby steps of turning up to the class and going in and making the same, just I suppose making notes and starting to read things that I hadn't read before and doing your assignments. They're like little baby steps. Over time, you've got your qualification. It's opening up keys to potential that you never realized were even going to be accessible to you. So it's just amazing how those baby steps and those areas of your life that you haven't invested in before, if you start just making those changes, it can absolutely transform your life within a year. Give it 12 months. I would love you to try that just from now until, not a New Year's resolution as such, but just to pick each day or each week, say, making a tiny little change in my life, doesn't matter where it is. I'm going to make a little change each day and celebrate that change at the end of the day and keep that up for a full year. And I'd love to hear what kind of life you've designed from the inside out after that year, because it really starts to transform your life and it just will open up so much more possibility. Whether it's your health, whether it's your fitness, whether it's your career, whether it's going back to education, whether it's relationships, whether it's, you know, any type of travel, anything that you feel like you'd love that's stagnant. Because a lot of the time we can be low in energy, we can be unmotivated, we don't have our vital energy because we're stagnant in areas and there's no energy flowing through us in that area. So it's all about flow, it's all about, like creativity and life is flowing. It's like flowing water, it always wants to flow. So when it's not flowing, it becomes stagnant. Like if you were to leave water in a glass and just left it there and just left it there, just left it there, what would happen with it? It would just lose all of its quality, with all of its freshness, all of its, thirst quenching qualities. So you need to have fresh flowing water going through your system. And that's why I say the baby steps is like that. It clears out, it actually is bringing in the fresh and the new. If you look at it like that, something fresh and new. And a lot of the time, it's just avoidance that we feel we want to keep repeating the same pattern over and over again, especially as we get older. And sometimes we don't want change, we're afraid of change. It's the fear of change. But what would be worse is getting this huge, massive wake up call of a life change, or making baby steps towards choosing that change for yourself. I think that's a good way of putting it, actually, choosing the change rather than the change being forced upon us. So I would say, yeah, just encourage you to, look at the little areas that you can change, and just to take baby steps each day. And that has a ripple effect right through your life. It's amazing. And it just will bring you so much more joy and actually vitality, interest in life, because it builds confidence. And I talk all about this on this page. It's all about self-belief and self-confidence. And another byproduct of that is actually when you make that little change. I'm going to academia now. It's called self-efficacy. So the way we build confidence, when it in the theory side of things, in social learning theory, the only way that we can build confidence is by doing something, by acting, making an action. And then when we see ourselves and witness ourselves taking that action, then we build a certain amount of confidence and self-esteem. The next time we do something new or challenging or different, even if it's tiny little win, a tiny little change, that builds more confidence, and it builds more confidence. And the more we build and the more we do those baby steps, we are building an inner confidence, and we're building our self-belief. So the more self-belief, and the more, it's like more money in the bank, the more resources we have to be able to become who we are designed to be. So it makes so much sense. It's like savings, You're not just making positive change in your life, but you're actually building your own ability within yourself to believe in yourself. So as I talk about, anything is possible if you believe it is. And that's true. But it's also true that you have to make those action steps every day going towards that bigger dream. So if you have a huge dream, we want to achieve it, what are the baby steps we're taking to build a self-confidence and a self-belief in ourselves that we can actually do that? Before we know it, we are halfway there, 3/4 way there. We're getting closer all the time. And you're attracting that success to you also. So whenever you invest in life, life invests in you. So you're also brilliant that and becoming magnetic for success in your life. So again, I was just sharing with a friend of mine, Michelle, actually from 55 Faces, about, I had a thought in my head thinking about PhD, had mentioned to a few people, hadn't looked into it, didn't know anything about it, wasn't sure, but I thought to myself, I wonder if I'd be able to start one in September. I didn't know how much it was going to cost. I didn't know what would how would that work? Because the master's would be finished in September, and then how would I start again? And then out of the blue, I got a phone call. Somebody wanted to mentor me and told me all about it, and told me that you can get PhD positions as new job, and there's lots of possibilities in different countries all around the world where you can study a PhD and get paid for it. So it opens up that when you have that attitude, when you have that listening, taking that time to listen to what our heart is singing, as I say, singing to us, singing this beautiful song. And then you start to put that into words and you start speaking it and you start wondering about it and you're not sure and you go into your creative mode and you start to explore. Things come towards you. You start making little steps towards that, and all of a sudden life starts to bring that towards you and giving you information, or open the doors, or giving you resources that you need to create that dream, because that's the dream of you. And that's the way life is designed. Life is designed, your dream, your life's dream, and it wants to dream. It wants to dream through you. So, yeah, just make those little tiny baby steps every day, and you'll be on the path to being true to you. Okay, guys, I'll finish it there. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll talk to you next week. I'll love you and leave you, and thank you so much for tuning in. I really love you all here. It really makes a huge difference to know that people are listening on the playback. And if you ever want to comment, or if you want to see me live, I'm live on YouTube, usually on a Tuesday at 8 p.m. Irish. So you can chat live in the comments, and I'll share it back into Facebook when I finish. So love you all, and leave you until next week. Take care. Bye.